Hey Shane.
Mate, we last time we talked was on the phone, so you didn't see me, but we talked about killing Mr. Heineken.
Oh yes, yes.
And
Another great movie, another great
yeah,
flashback moment for me. Yeah, great.
yeah. And most of our conversation ended up in the end being about surfing, which was fun.
Love it. Things haven't changed. I'm still a slave to the ocean.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear, mate. Good to hear, and thanks for your time today. I appreciate it.
Oh, I mean, and you're absolutely welcome. And honestly, anything for Ivan, he's
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's good to hear. We'll talk about him shortly.
sure.
But I mean, I haven't seen the movie yet. So as we speak, I have not actually watched the movie. So tell me a little bit about it. Loveland, it sounds like a romance. Is it a romance?
Of sorts. It's a Chinese sort of future city that sort of very much is the backdrop to a loveless world on the
Yeah.
cusp of immortality and extinction. And it's where these two broken, hardened souls search for what it once was to be human.
What motivated you for the role, or did Ivan handpick you, or was there an audition process?
Ivan first kind of made me aware of this when I was shooting Mystery Road, so back in like 2013, and then
Okay.
I first read the draft of this in January of 2014, and was just blown away. I mean, Ivan is such a cinematic poet, and his way with words, particularly in this. This is his first sort of foray into that sci-fi world. Obviously, most of his movies have sort of been in and around sort of desert stories up until this point. And I think this is a wonderful kind of artistic commentary on where we're headed as a species. So there's, as with most of Ivan's work, there's deeper ramifications other than the intimacy of the characters themselves. There's deeper ramifications for society here that I think he does such a great job of honing in on.
Yeah, he has that about his movies, Ivan. They're very detailed. They're very complicated at times. I assume this is no different. And he uses a lot of Indigenous actors, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, and he's not afraid to sort of sit in the silence, to sort of make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I think these days, that feeling of being uncomfortable, particularly when you're watching something, is a good thing. Like we spend so much of our time, of our lives, in comfort. And I think art these days should be kind of challenging us in such a way where we can come out of the experience a better man, better human, whatever it is. I think there's a way for us to get that across. And I know that he's really worked his butt off to make sure that this is that type of movie.
Well, it's interesting you say that you're a little uncomfortable, because if an actor is uncomfortable on set, often they'll walk or they'll tell their managers, I don't like this. But you seem to have, gone with it because you trust Ivan, obviously.
Yeah, man. Look, I revel in that uncomfortable. I think the greatest thing that we can experience is the mysterious. Einstein said that, and I'd second those sentiments in a heartbeat. I mean, when you work with someone like Ivan, you realize that the mystery is such a seducing motherfucker. It really, you can't help but get sucked in by it. And he's such a master of it. And which is why, his crew and cast for the most part aren't usually that big, but it's such an intimate, passionate lot that are all working towards this common goal of helping Ivan achieve this sort of master vision, master plan.
With your character, did you have much say in how it was developed, or was it strictly by the script?
Look, man, it's funny because I also haven't seen it. I know that Ivan wanted me to see it on the big screen, both me and Gillian. And so in sort of preparing for this interview, I kind of, rather than watching it, obviously, I went back and reread it. And there's just so many gorgeous uh, there's so much richness to that dialogue that I can't help but be sort of taken aback by it. I want to read you the first time something that sort of Ivan wrote. It's when April, she's a nightclub singer, and it's the first time sort of Jack has really sort of seen her, and he's sort of sitting behind a glass as she's singing to him.
Yeah.
And she's coming towards the end of the song, and this is what Ivan writes. Jack watches April. He slowly feels a chemical reaction within his body. April's last words fade away. The music stops. Jack is silent. Something as simple as that, where, you know, you talk about the beats in between the music, you know, the beats, that's where, for me, this story, you talk about how much play did I get? It's in those beats in between, man, like an enormous amount of play, you know, and I still know that I'm operating within the confines of the character that Ivan has created and the deeper vision of where we're heading toward.
Sounds like you're really passionate about this movie, and I can't wait to see it. And if we have to see it on the big screen instead of a screener, I much prefer that anyway. So I can wait. If it's going to be
Me too, man. Me too.
And that little passage, I mean, I wanted you to keep going. Thank you very much for reading that. That was
you
really,
got it.
Really good. Now, Hugo Weaving, obviously one of your co-stars in this movie. Get anything? Did you learn from him? How was it working with the legend himself?
Yeah, look, I'm sure you get it too, as I do. But we are lucky enough to meet some of our icons in this business.
Yeah.
Some of them can be, let's say, disappointing. Maybe not live up to expectations, and then there's those sort of very rare breed that will exceed expectations. And Hugo sits in that lion for me, man. You can't help but be inspired by the man. He still has such a genuine love for the craft, for the art of making film. To give you an example, there was one day where we're getting a ferry across to Hanoi. He's not even supposed to be working, Shane. And yet he turns up fully dressed in his wardrobe and offering Ivan, listen, if there happens to be a scene or a moment where you want to get me in shot, let me know. And of course, Ivan, being a smart filmmaker and willing to take advantage of an opportunity, said, yep. And, you know, and sure enough, they used it. It's that type of willing to go to the nth degree that, you know, from a younger actor looking up to him, it's like it can't help but be inspiring.
I expect nothing less. I mean, I'm not surprised that he turned up on a day off in wardrobe. And having met him and interviewed him, and his knowledge and his passion, such as yourself, it's glowing out of you right now about this movie. I'm not surprised Hugo did that. So it must have been great working with him. I'm really happy. I'm looking forward to seeing you two together.
Yeah, look, and me too. And just to, you know, even as you're talking, I'm sort of having these wonderful flashbacks to sort of being on set with the legend and just seeing the way he works, sort of being a bit of a voyeur of sorts, watching someone that I've spent a good deal of many hours watching on screen, seeing the way he crafts his craft. It was just beautiful to watch, and just how much he cared.
You mentioned Hanoi. Was it all natural locations that you filmed in, or were there sound stages as well?
For the most part, all natural. You know, Ivan said this great thing at the beginning, because we didn't, obviously, tiny budget. Excuse me, 1 second. Tiny budget, tiny crew, Shane. So we couldn't afford sort of city permits or anything like that, especially in Hong Kong. So we went sort of renegade, and Ivan sort of said, listen, we're going to move within the chi of the city. So if we do that, no one's going to know or give two shits that we're here doing what we're doing. They're not even, we're just going to be part of the melee. And sure enough, it worked. You kind of work within that. And so we had our small little guerrilla unit out there trying to make art in the middle of this sort of hustle bustle city, and it really, really worked. It wasn't like we were shutting down streets and making a very artificial feeling of a city. We were using everything that was there. And that's an Ivan trait. That sort of, some would call it running and gunning, but it's far more inspired than that.
Yep. Was it a COVID production? And how did you cope? It wasn't.
No.
Okay.
No. It was
Before COVID.
Yeah. There's February 2019. It was over. So yeah, a year and a half. Yeah. At least a year before COVID. So yeah, again, you're hitting on a smart note. There's from a philosophical as well as a literal standpoint, there's some things in this movie that are definitely ahead of its time, I guess. And now couldn't be more poignant.
Oh, that's good to know. So you guys were ahead of the curve.
Well, again, I sort of said it at the beginning of this, but it's, I feel like it's Ivan's forewarning for us as a species. Like, are we losing touch with our humanity? Are we relying too much on the mechanical kind of nature of things, on technology? And I think it's a really good cry back to connection, to conversation, to let's, no matter how dark a place that we're in, there's always a light that can be found.
It sounds like you enjoyed the shoot, but what was the biggest challenge on Loveland? Was there any particular thing that you found a little bit hard, but you got through it, or was it all smooth sailing?
I said to Ivan at the very end of this, he asked me, well, what are you most excited to do after this? And I said, smile. This character he's as much as he's sunk deep into my marrow, he's a broken man, and he's a real shadow of a human. And as much as he sort of finds love in this movie, it's ironic because the one thing that makes him feel most alive is the one thing that can kill him. Yep. So that to live in that for me as the actor, and I felt that was it's what I chose to do. I love doing it, but it's a tough place to dwell in.
More broken than John in Blunt Force Trauma?
In the same ballpark, man. Yeah, I love that reference.
Sounds like
yeah, in the same ballpark. That to me is also another kind of one that hits very close to home. I just love these type of characters that you're not sure. I guess as an audience, if they're even going to make it through the movie, and you really feel like you have to pick them up along the way. I love those characters, finding redemption in darkness, to really etching out demons, facing them, grabbing them by the collar and sort of shaking life into them. I think that to me is where the juice is.
Well, you're also good at comedy, so you can lighten it up too. Not suitable for children.
Yeah, I do like me a good laugh. Yeah.
Do you still get recognized when you walk around, or not quite as much anymore? I think you're doing great work, but a lot of it is sort of low-key indie films. Do people still see, it's Ryan Kwanten, or do you sort of get around unnoticed?
Occasionally, but as the years have gone on from True Blood, it doesn't, the recognition isn't as much. And again, I hark back to what I just told you. The most beautiful thing that we can experience is the mysterious. And so for me, the characters that I'm sort of choosing to take these days are far more darker, and I want the audience to go with me. I don't want them to recognize me. I want to kind of, however arty this may sound, I want to sort of take them on the journey with me.
Yeah.
And so the quicker I can kind of melt into that character, the quicker they can come on that journey with me.
Australian films lately have sort of delved in. There's been a few sci-fis. 2067, of course, you were involved in, Operation Rainfall. So does Loveland carry on this recent tradition of really interesting, different Aussie sci-fi?
Wholeheartedly. Yeah, that's a wonderful
Good.
way to put it. Yeah, wholeheartedly. And it's in a weird way, there's a Blade Runner element to this too that has.
Wow, I'm excited now.
Yeah. Again, imagine Ivan dealing with like a real Blade Runner type of feel. You can't help but be affected by this. I mean, the world itself is so incredibly affecting. And you can tell that Ivan had just been living with this story for some time. How well he knew the world, and that in itself gave way to this beautiful intimacy at the heart of this story that he had such a great and astute handle on.
So you sort of name dropping Blade Runner, is that because you were watching dailies and you saw it happening before your eyes, or you just got that vibe while you were acting?
No, I know it was one of the movies that was one of the many movies that was an inspiration of Ivan's.
Cool.
Yeah, but again, that was sort of more in scope. There's and in pacing. I think much in the same way that knew the movie it wanted to be. There was a confidence that Blade Runner has in its pacing. It's not afraid to kind of sit in these silences. Again, Ivan is not afraid to sit in those silences and to sort of let the audience sit and live in the moment, as opposed to quick cut, let's move on to the next scene. Really let them sit with that character at the end of the scene
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, before we wrap it up, I've got to ask one more question about blunt force trauma. Mickey Rourke, great actor, really is, and he had a small scene with you. How was it working with Mickey? And you seem to be smiling in the scene. I don't know if it was just your character, but it looked like you're enjoying yourself working with him.
There was a little smugness, to be honest. Perhaps there was a. Yeah, I worked with Mickey again this year on a movie I just sort of wrapped.
Oh, great!
Look, yeah, he's good. He's no Hugo.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, Frida Pinto also was in it, so yeah, she's wonderful.
Oh, Frida's just amazing. Yeah. Again,
well,
you know, that movie sits up there with very few in terms of the ones that got through to me, that sort of turned me into a better man. Yeah. All right, Shane.
All right, Ryan. Thank you very much, mate. You're great in Creepshow too. I saw the episode. Very funny.
You're amazing. You made my day, man. Thank you, Shane.
And if Loveland has a premiere or red carpet or something, I hope we can catch up in person. And all the best with it. Well done working with Ivan again.
Yeah, thank you. Hope to do it again. Thanks, Shane.
All right, mate. See you later.
Thanks, Shane.
Mate.
Appreciate it, mate. All right.
Thanks, Dov.
Cheers, man.
Hopefully it was a good interview. I tried my best.
You did great.
Thank you.
It was great. Thanks, mate.